Now let us pass on from this to concrete instances where women were responsible for killing the people spiritually, killing those who came into contact with them by their influence, their hold, in contrast to what God wanted them to do. Our first parents, Adam and Eve, such was the influence, as I said to you. She said, eat. He just listened and ate. And so is the downfall of so many of the famous biblical characters. Take Samson. Samson was a mighty leader in the book of Judges, we are told. He was one of the judges, one of the leaders. He led Israel into so many battles and gave them victory. He is the one who even inflicted the most damage on the enemy. And then the enemy, in his wild way, sent a woman into his life. Her name was Delilah. Many people feel that she was the wife. She was not the wife. His wife was a woman from Timnah. Beside his wife, Delilah was the other woman. So his wife, when he had her, would, cry and make a fuss, tell me this, tell me this, tell me this. The woman from Timnah. And Samson would soften and tell her. The enemy, the devil, took note of this. He could be softened by the voice of his wife. And his wife, the woman from Timnah, said, you don't love me. That's why you're not telling me. And as if to counter that, he told her certain secrets. The enemy, the devil, took note of this. In time to come, he sent another woman, Delilah, beautiful. Samson fell for her. And Samson's secret was in his hair. The Lord had said to his parents, let not a razor touch his hair. His hair, the strength lies in that, just like grace. Grace is our strength. In Samson's case, what was naturally growing, now without his effort, was his hair. For us, the hair represents the grace which naturally is given to us by God without effort. So don't play with God's grace. And Samson's parents were instructed, don't play with the hair by removing it. So no one knew the great power that he had. He could tear, on one occasion, he tore a lion apart. Just imagine. Such was his great role as a judge, as a leader of Israel. And so this woman, Delilah, comes into his life and she persuades him. What is your secret? What is your secret? And he starts flirting with her. At first, he gives the wrong answers. He says, if you do this, then my strength will go. She does it. His strength doesn't go. Then he gives another misleading answer. She tries that. His strength doesn't go. But he's flirting with her. This is what we do. We flirt with sin and temptation. And we think that we can handle it. And he thought he could handle it. Slowly, she started using the old tactics. She started saying, see, you don't actually love me. If you love me, you would have told me. She wept a little, and there it was, the voice of the woman. And he said, my strength lies in my hair. If it is removed, I will lose all my strength. Promptly she goes to the enemy and tells them. The enemy comes while he's asleep. She shaves his head, and he's powerless. When he gets up, he thinks as usual he'll have his strength, but God is no longer with him. So is the man who takes wrong steps on the bidding of his wife, and he thinks God's strength will always be with him, but he realizes God is no longer with him. And the enemies picked up Samson, and you know what they did? They jailed him, and the first thing they did is they blinded him. And that was the enemy, our eternal enemy, Satan wants to blind our spiritual insight, blind our understanding, right? Rightly does the book of Proverbs say, it is your insight and your understanding that will lead you and give you life. So what did the enemy do? They blinded, not the physical eyes. They blinded his spiritual insight, his understanding. And Samson could do nothing. So what can I say? A woman killed him, isn't it? Then you take the case of Solomon, the great King Solomon, filled with so much of wisdom because he asked God for wisdom. He didn't ask God for riches. He said, I want wisdom to lead these people. And God gave him so much of wisdom, more than anyone else. With the result, today in the Bible, we have so many books attributed to Solomon: the Song of Songs, the book of Proverbs, the book of Ecclesiastes, all from Solomon's great wisdom, God-given wisdom. But in his old age, a sad story comes. You see in 1 Kings chapter 11, verse number 1 says, as he grew old, women became his weakness. And he loved many foreign women, so says 1 Kings 11:1. He loved many foreign women. Beside the daughter of the king of Egypt, he married many Hittite women and women from here and there. Though the Lord had said, verse number 2, he married them even though the Lord had commanded not to intermarry with these people, because they would cause the Israelites to give their loyalty to other gods. I stop here and I just ask you to pause. I just ask you to pause and think how marriages go wrong when people do not believe in the same thing as we do. The real challenge when you marry a person of the other faith is to bring that partner, that mate, that spouse into the faith. Who knows? He or she may grow more than you spiritually, may be more closer to you then she's a blessing to you. But in most of the cases, person is led apart, like Solomon was. Even the children, they don't know in which boat they are. They're given the freedom. Once they grow up, let them decide. Once they grow up, they say, we don't want religion, we don't need faith. And so a faithless generation is produced. And God knew it. And verse number 2 says, Solomon married them even though the Lord had commanded the Israelites not to intermarry with these people. They would cause the Israelites to give their loyalty to other gods. Verse number 3 says, he married 700 princesses, beside 300 concubines. And what is the final say of verse number 3? They made him turn away from God. This all started in his young age, and by the time he was old, verse number 4 says, they had led him to the worship of foreign gods. He was not faithful to the Lord his God, as David had been. So the great Solomon, blessed with so many charisms, blessed with so many talents, speaks to us, Christians, who are blessed with so many skills and talents. And one time we prayed to God for the right things and asked and served the Lord as his servants. Beware, a woman finally may kill you, as in the case of the great and wise Solomon. In fact, it is said in verse number 8 of chapter 11, Solomon built places of worship where all his foreign wives could burn incense and offer sacrifices to their own gods. So this is the peril of, when the danger, when your wife and you are not on the same page regarding your relationship with God. And God help you. God only can help you if your wife is materialistic, where she wants God, but she, because of a past culture, wants more wealth, culture, higher living. Oh God, God only can help you, because you'll never be satisfied with what you have. You'll always say it's not sufficient. I want more. You'll become greed, and greed is a form of idolatry. So a woman killed him, right? So there goes the great Solomon. A woman killed him. So Adam and Eve also, aptly a woman killed. Judah the Great, the book of Genesis says the name Judah means praise. And he was one of the sons of Jacob. The first son, in fact, Judah, praise. Judah again was deceived by a woman who came in the form of a prostitute. And he fell for her. And he committed sin with her. And that woman who came disguised was his own daughter-in-law. So his daughter-in-law, in a cunning way, saw to it that she was pregnant with the father-in-law's child. Right? So aptly couldn't you say a woman killed him? So beware, dear friends. Keep alert. Whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, keep alert. Okay? You have the story in 1 Kings chapter 21 of a famous king, Ahab, a very evil king, right? God knows where he was good at one time, but the Bible records, he did the worst sins more than any other king. He led the whole people of Israel away from God. And who was his wife? Her name was Jezebel. Jezebel. Actually, in Hebrews, is Jezebel because she came from a place which worshipped the false god Baal. In fact, her father was a priest of Baal, and he had named his daughter Jezebel from Baal. And she comes into the life of Ahab. God knows what he was before marriage, but I can tell you certainly after marriage, all the evil came out. And you can rightly attribute it to the right source, Jezebel, a woman killed him. On one occasion, we are told he became greedy. She had made him like that. He was not happy. He looked out of his palace window. He's a king. He looked out of the palace window. He saw someone else's garden. He said, I wanted the garden. So he went to the man and he said, I want to buy your garden. The man said, sorry, sir, this is ancestral property. I cannot sell it to you. So he comes home depressed, and his beloved wife, Jezebel, asks, why are you sad? He said, I want that property, but I cannot get it. She says, don't worry, I'll get it for you. Such as Jezebel. Very, very so-called wise woman, isn't it? How many have so-called wise wives? They listen to them. I'll do it for you. I'll get it done. And so she made out letters to certain of her agents in the city and told them, call a function and ask the garden owner to come there as a chief guest and then have some people accuse him of some crime and then stone him to death. So the plot was carried out. They invited him, not knowing that he's signing his death warrant. There, at the middle of the function, some people started accusing him and they threw stones and killed him. And Jezebel comes to her husband after getting this news and says, come on, get up, boy. Don't be depressed. Go and take control of the garden. He's dead. His body was lying there on the road. And everyone knew Jezebel was behind his murder. No one even dared to touch the body, except the dogs who came and licked his blood. But what happened to Ahab? Years later, in a battle, just as the prophet Elijah prophesied, Isaiah told him, for this reason, you listened to your wife and you made such a blunder. For this reason, you will die and dogs will lick up your blood in the same way as they were licking up his blood. It came true. Years later, in battle, he was killed and his body was lying there, and the blood from his chariot was licked up by the dogs. So you see, You should not play with the Word of God, because the Word of God also says the same thing happens to you. In the same way as you sin, the same way you're punished. God makes the same thing happen again and again. It came true, isn't it? It comes true in your life too, my life too. Who is influencing us? A woman killed him. The story is told of a great Roman soldier, Mark Antony, famous soldier. He rose to be commander and general of the army, the Roman army. And one day he found that after defeating his enemy, there was a queen of Egypt, Cleopatra by name, who had helped his enemy. So he sent a number of letters to her to show cause why he should not take action against her for supporting his enemy. Cleopatra at first ignored his letters, and then finally one day she appeared, she came to him in a huge procession in a boat with music, dressed up beautifully, with young boys all dancing, and purple cloth and silver and gold lining for the boat, and came to meet Mark Antony. And Mark Antony was so impressed. And history tells us he and his top officers, she called them to a boat, and for some days they had parties there. Mark Antony went mad over her. And later you find he was completely corrupted by her. And this great general, finally, when he was in a naval battle, and his ships were in the naval battle, and Cleopatra, the queen of Egypt, also brought her ships to join him. And they were fighting this battle, and all the soldiers looked up to their leader, Mark Antony. You know what this leader does? Mark Antony slips into Cleopatra's ship, and they sail away along with Cleopatra's ships which had joined. The result, the poor soldiers suffered. They suffered a big defeat, while Mark Antony and Cleopatra, he abandoned his role as general, as leader. A woman killed him. Can you see that? In history, you see it. In your own life, you see. In present day society, you see how women have had played their role of influence in the wrong way, and what God had meant in the beginning and what they did. And when some are told this on the truth is told to their face, they become more harder in heart. Listen to the voice of God today. Shed this way of leading your family, you're leading your spouse towards the roads of hell. Outward Christianity is not going to help you. Return to what you were at the beginning, where God was first and everything was done pleasing to God, without any other idols, without any other, the idolatry of greed coming in. Again, a story is told of Charles Parnell. Charles Parnell was a bright young man, and he was an Irishman. His full name was Charles Stuart Parnell, and he led the Irish people, right, in their independence, etc. So much was he respected among the Irish people that even though they were struggling against the British people, they were at that time Ireland was not part the of Britain. Still, the British respected him. The British Prime Minister at that time would talk to him out of respect. Such a respect Charles Stuart Parnell had at that time. And he was a fiery leader. He would give big speeches and he would encourage his people. Everyone looked up to him. And then one of his supporters filed a case against him. And the case was a case for divorce of his wife, on the ground that Charles Parnell was having a secret love affair with his wife. And the court called Charles Parnell to reply, and Charles Parnell gave no reply because the fact was he was having a secret affair with the wife of his own supporter. And he wanted the divorce to take place. But he may have got his way, but he lost everything. His own Irish people began to hate him. The British, who is to regard him with high regard, they discarded him now. They don't even bother about him. The Prime Minister refused to speak to him. He fell from grace, fell from position, fell from respect. The man who had so much of goodness about him. What happened? A woman killed him, you see. And that was the end of Charles Stuart Parnell, who died at the age of 45, finally. So, my dear, please take to heart the lessons today. Very practical lessons. As I said in the beginning, adversity and problems will always be there in your life, whether you're Christian or not. But in Christianity, it is a mark of showing how you can hold on to Christ, hold on to his teachings, not go by your own brain. And in this, the person next to you, your spouse, your wife, or if unmarried, the woman who wins over your heart, could either reach you to heaven or she could kill you for a feast for hell. So take to heart this. See, a great king like Herod, Mark chapter 6 says, he was, though he had arrested John the Baptist, Mark 6 says, he liked to hear. Whenever John the Baptist preached, he would like to hear. No doubt, John the Baptist told him to his face, you have illegally taken the wife of your brother. That is wrong. See, that is the mark of a true prophet of God. Whether the person is a friend or in good favor, you tell the person directly on the face. And John the Baptist would tell, and whenever he would tell him, his heart would shake a bit, become a little restless. Mark 6 says. But nevertheless, he is to like the preaching of John the Baptist, and he is to try to protect him. How many of us are like that? We like the preaching of a particular preacher. We're very protective to see that nothing happens to such a preacher. Huh? But some of the words from the preacher are striking us. It makes our heart shudder. But nevertheless, we continue like this. And his wife, Herodias, the wife of his brother, was waiting for a chance. But she couldn't do anything because Herod was protecting John the Baptist. She got her chance finally one day at a party. And the Herodias used her daughter. Tradition tells us her name was Salome. Salome danced so well, the king was mad. He said, I will give you anything for that dance, even half of my kingdom. And the daughter ran back to the mother, Herodias, and asked, what should I ask? Oh, Herodias said, just ask for the head of John the Baptist on a platter. See the way she put it. She said, don't ask John the Baptist to be killed because the king may change his mind later. I ask it be put on a platter now, means now he should be killed. And the girl Salome ran back and she said, O king, I want the head of John the Baptist on a platter. And it's recorded in Mark 6, he was very sad, but he could not break his word he had made. The sad story of many. They're sad inside over the blunders they make, but they don't want to lose face in front of the others. So they keep up with the pretense and walk inch by inch towards hell. And what happened? The same man who wanted to protect John the Baptist, who liked his preaching, was very protective about John the Baptist, finally end up cutting his neck. What can you say of Herod? If not those words, a woman killed him.